As we reported earlier in this broadcast, recovery efforts after Hurricane Katrina have been inexplicably slow. But the other side of the story is that the response of individual volunteers and donors has been remarkably good. Private donations for Katrina victims total well over $5 billion, and more than 500,000 Americans have actually gone to the disaster zone to pitch in. Lee Cowan found some of them in Mississippi for our ongoing series, Katrina Plus 1 Year.
This is one group of contractors that have never had an argument with a homeowner. They're rarely behind, they do exceptional work, and not a single one of them gets paid a dime.
These people have been a lifesaver. It's like they were dropped out of heaven.
She's not far off. They're all volunteers with the North Carolina Baptist Men, just one of the hundreds of faith-based organizations whose members have sacrificed weekends, vacations, even sick days to come to the Gulf Coast and do what the government and insurance agencies seem unable to do.
Yesterday, we called a lady and told her that we were going to be able to build her a new house. And
what was that like?
I held the phone out, and we were in the office.
Eddie Williams is the man in charge. His wife Martha does the books. Both quit their jobs in North Carolina to come here to stand in the gap, they say. Not just for a few weeks, but for 2 years.
This 2 years is just a bleep in our life compared to what the people on the Gulf Coast are going to be recovering from for the next 5, 6, 7, 10 years, you know.
They are a model of efficiency. Eddie took over Gulfport's abandoned National Guard armory. He made a barracks for hundreds of volunteers to sleep, a kitchen that pumps out 1,000 meals a day, a warehouse full of building supplies. He even built a prayer garden, one of the few quiet places here.
God does miraculous things. I never realized that we would have this many volunteers.
Just how many has he brought to Gulfport? 15,000 over the last year, sometimes as many as 1,200 per day. To date, they've put in more than 900,000 work hours of volunteer labor.
If you do the math, it's pretty extraordinary. 15,000 volunteers in a community that used to house 75,000 people. That works out to be one volunteer for every 5 residents.
All offering themselves for back-breaking work that Eddie says is somehow pain-free.
I feel like if we were back home and we were keeping the hours that we were doing on a regular job, we'd be the biggest whiners it ever was. You know, too many hours, we don't get enough rest, we don't get enough sleep, but you don't hear that here. I think it's by knowing that we're doing what the Lord wants us to do.
A selfless commitment that seems contagious, and that's a blessing by anyone's measure. Lee Cowan, CBS News, Gulfport, Mississippi.